Good morning, Wildcat Nation. It's Mike and Jesse with a somber yet dutiful episode of Wildcat Fanalytics. And Mike, I see you're joining us with your football jersey.
Yeah, we gotta talk about football first, and I just felt like showing love to the football team and program. Obviously, the big news of the weekend: Arizona football loses head coach Jeff Fish to University of Washington. Something that I think we all were a little afraid of when Alabama was able to hire away Washington's head coach, but I think a lot of us had this feeling like, hey, no, Fish has said all this stuff about family and tradition and culture and keeping with it, and so I think most of us just thought, gosh, he means it, he's going to stay, and so that really hit like a sledgehammer. I know that in my friend group, I've had a lot of texts, flying back and forth about how sad this is and how angering and frustrating. I think you know, Arizona football just hasn't had Arizona basketball. We've had our frustrations, right? Where we just haven't punched through, but Arizona football just hasn't had two consistent good seasons.
Mm.
Like since I've been a fan, and when I stepped on campus in '03. And so for us to have had this past season, which was wonderful, an absolute blast of a season, win the bowl game, win a group of games, really be competitive team and end up just outside the top 10, to get preseason ranked top 10 next season. And then to have, really the rug pulled out from under us. I think right now everybody's wondering, Arizona did very promptly go ahead and hire Brent Brennan from San Jose State, who's a Dick Tomey, legendary Arizona football coach, Dick Tomey disciple, which is great. Glad that we got Brent. But the question, do we are we able to retain players? Is this team going to look like what it was? And it probably isn't. I think that's the most somber and sobering reality is, the transfer portal and NIL. The landscape is so fluid these days, and that's just really tough. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as you're saying that, what comes to me is just this struggle as a sports fan to deal with the grief process of
Mhm.
we invest as fans in with all of our being sometimes,
Yeah,
whether it's healthy or not.
yeah,
And the stability of college athletics was something to rest in back in the day when you really the exception was somebody's transferring or leaving early. I remember when Brian Williams left for the NBA, and he
yeah.
was a redshirt junior, so it was his fourth year in college, and I was like, "What?" and and
You didn't
then
have to do that. Where's
I
he
know why.
going?
Wait, you should stay so I can watch you again.
Yeah,
And transferring, of course, under the old rules was really de-incentivized.
right.
Obviously, that was the intent. And it was a different economic landscape. And
Yeah,
I think what is hard as a fan, as we're going to talk about in basketball as well, is it's hard to invest
yeah,
in the fluidity of it, because part of where we attach is to the familiarity and the continuity of roster, coaches, and feeling like that person's a sense of my community. I'm a sense of their community. Lute Olson is something we count on.
yeah.
Tommy Lloyd is somebody we count on. Matt Muehlbach's going to come back and, be the team captain as a senior, and on and on. Damon Stoudemire is going to be a senior. And um, I think that's the part that is real that I'm wrestling with, is how much can I invest as a fan in the current climate of,
Yeah,
of, of the NCAA. Yeah.
100%. And I think a lot of us forecasted that as a deep concern when the
Mhm.
NIL thing exploded. Obviously, you don't want to take away from these young men and women's ability to generate revenue that they deserve. But the impact on what makes the sport so special, college sports in general so special, was worrisome back then, and it's downright tragic in my opinion right now. And I was having the exact same questions this weekend and this morning, even, just like, it is it worth it to be that invested should you just sort of let things roll and not really focus all that much, and then sort of just, oh, I heard that Wildcats won, and just sort of, wave the flag. I don't know. I don't want that to be how I root for my team. I want to still care. It's part of why I chose to put on the jersey today, right? It's
Hmm.
just, I want to continue to show up for the program and feel like it is still what it was, college sports in general. But there is that nasty reality that these guys aren't showing up to Tucson and other schools and other towns just because they want to bleed red and blue.
Hmm.
It's also a paycheck,
Hmm.
and that does, naturally it just makes it tough. And
Yeah.
the lack of continuity in the roster, be it football where it's just really prevalent. And we're all praying that we get to keep some of these guys that we're going to make this team hopefully top 10 next year. But additionally, basketball.
Mm.
And Arizona's benefiting from having some great transfers. Um, Probably need a little bit more or some different stuff out of a couple of them. I'm sure you'll have some opinions on that. Um, and then, you look at a guy like Adama Ball was able to go and transfer and have some success. And so good for him. Pluses and minuses. But still, yeah, it's just tough to see it's tough to see everything change. And I am wrestling with what that means for me as a fan.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a worthy wrestling. I
Mm.
will answer this for myself if you'd like.
Please.
And I wonder for you, because I don't get to talk to many Arizona sports fans, for you beyond just the joy and exhilaration of the game at hand, what are the deeper needs that get met for you as a fan?
Oof. Yeah. There's a sense of pride in where you went to school, and it sort of surrounds my memory of being an Arizona alum and
Mm,
having the years there with an
nostalgia.
extra, yeah,
Hmm.
with an extra glow. You know what I mean?
Mm, hmm.
Um, so and I do look back on those years super fondly. I've got a ton of friends that, it was really a life-changing experience for me, truly, to go to Arizona, and I met my wife there eventually.
Mm,
A lot of my best friends really were
mm,
from that experience. And so, um, deep love for Tucson and for the University of Arizona, and sports reinforces that in a big way. And so that's why, I can't give it up. But, um, how much do you attach yourself to the day to day? I don't know. There's Newport Cat on the Wildcat Authority fan board. Speaks a
shout
lot
out.
on shout out. I think he's here, I assume, in Newport Beach, I'm pretty sure.
Huh.
In Orange County. Um, he speaks a lot about the change in the landscape. I think he's a booster for the football program, and
Mm,
or is connected with them, and he's talked about college basketball, especially, where he says, look, I don't really associate with the wins and the losses during the regular season.
mm,
And I had previously given him some crap about that, where I'm like, look, there's 30 games here or whatever that you get to enjoy, like enjoy those, or grieve them, but be part of that experience. Um, in a little bit of a way, he's probably got a good sense of how to manage it. I think maybe he takes it a little too far, but people living and dying by a road loss to Washington State, probably not healthy or that useful. But I'm not going to give up caring about, Arizona sports in general.
Well, and as you're sharing that, and thank you for that, the word that comes to me is community.
Yeah, yeah.
And that might be because, outside of sports, that's something I spend a lot of bandwidth trying to stimulate and engage with and just like contemplate, like what the hell
Yeah,
is community in this modern era and how, in this nuclearized kind of world that I live in, and
sure.
how do I generate meaningful, lasting, intimate community? And I think back to when I was like 12 and 13, when I first started following the Cats, and I decided as a whatever that is, sixth or seventh grader, that I was going to go to the U of A, and I just could not even imagine going to every game and how exciting that would be. And so my dad, in his like sort of stubborn wisdom, took us because my grandparents moved. They migrated. At the time I was living in New England. My grandparents
Yeah.
lived in New Hampshire. They retired and they
Hmm.
moved out to Green Valley, and all of a sudden they were like, hey, this basketball team out here is really good. And
Yeah.
that was the Final Four, the 89. And so I was like, cool, something that's my own, that I don't have to be, just a conformist kind of
Right.
sports fan with, and UConn and the New York Giants and all that stuff. Um, and so my dad, when I was 15, must have been freshman or sophomore in high school, he took us on a visit to campus while we were
That's
visiting, my grandparents. And he was like,
too
okay,
cool.
yeah, he's like, you want to see what it's like? And 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 then that sort of broadened me. And then I ended up, actually, I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you, but I ended up at University of Colorado. That's where I did my undergrad.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's no reason to mention it except that I don't have that same
Right.
community response, and I never attached to the CU community other than the cross country program. I was a fan, and that's where I pursued, coaching
Yeah.
runners and stuff. But but I think as you're saying that, when I look back on my 13-year-old self, I so badly wanted to be part of
Mhm.
that community. And for better or worse, well, let's say this. I think sports at their best can galvanize communities. You
Yeah.
look, like we see each other in commonality. We can, and of course, there's a ton of shadow in pro sport. And I'm not trying to like bypass all that, but just in its best moments, you feel a belonging.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think what I'm wrestling with as a fan, and I swear, Mike, I've gone through this like 6 times in the last 20 years where I've actually just like renounced fandom.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not because I don't love basketball or I don't love Arizona basketball. It's because I just can't really deal with like the vicarious
Yeah.
lack of getting those needs met, because it's really not on the team to do that for me. It
Yeah.
is a vicarious belonging. I think it's probably different if you're on campus and you're going to the school. I used to go to CU football games. At the first 2 years, at CU, I'd go to the football games, and that was Rick Neuheisel, and they were pretty good. It
Yeah.
was fun. It was like, hey, I'm a Golden Buffalo. Actually, I could tell you some funny anecdotes at some time about the basketball team, because my freshman year, I was the same class as Chauncey Billups.
That's crazy.
So like you have this crap basketball program and this brand new coach, Ricardo Patton, and then they somehow recruit Chauncey Billups, and that we got season tickets for $20, and like nobody
Yeah.
nobody went to games. It was just like me and these nerdy freshmen, I'm including myself in that. And we were just like, yeah, I want to watch the basketball team. And they're like, what? Who cares? And then like the next year they went to the NCAA tournament and they almost beat Kansas. Anyway, so I wanted to belong. And I think I'll bring this back to, our current U of A situation, where when Jed Fish, does makes that move, which of course in a capitalistic economic sense, I got no judgment for that.
What are you
Of
gonna do?
course, like do
Yeah.
what you got to do, because the system is set up to incentivize all of us to be self-interested. And
Yeah.
it's not really, it's not like I can't say that I do any different. I'd like to think I might have a different values hierarchy, but I've never been offered that kind of money or those opportunities. So I don't know, right? So it's not up to me
Yeah.
to judge that. However, I can absolutely judge the system and the way that we're sculpting this thing. Definitely, for better or worse, has shifted the values landscape of the whole thing that we're all invested in and attached to. So it's like, if you want people to donate to an NIL program, you want people to come to games,
Yeah.
this is maybe why there's a little bit of disenfranchisement happening with fans.
Yeah.
And like, I can't believe McHale Center is not sold out every game. But then I'm like, well, half these folks in my age bracket and the generation older, they don't want to keep up with a 80% roster turnover every year.
Two, two-thirds of the team is brand new,
And it
and
will
that's
and it will be
it's
next
like
year.
that all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough.
You almost, and I think the fun part of it, like for people like you and me and lots of the folks on the message boards who are like really into tracking and playing armchair recruiting and stuff like that. It's super fun because it's like now it's totally wide open.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to be like, oh, I saw this really dynamic 6'3" guard from
Right.
Illinois State.
We're
And
gonna pluck him,
yeah.
and what can
Yeah.
be.
Right. So I mean so I'm participating in
Right.
the physics of the same game that Jed Fish is. So I think
Yeah.
what I have to ask myself after this kind of weekend is what am I really investing in? You know, and
Yeah.
I thought about it after Washington State and I felt like I'm really looking to these guys to inspire me and
Hmm.
to feel some sense of mission in my life. And that's not up to them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and so like I have a right then to be like, all right, well, maybe I need to take care of those needs in my life that are undermet, right?
Yeah.
I need something more purposeful to pursue. I need to generate inspiration in other ways because it's not their job. Like they're not playing for me. Um, but is there another way, like you said, is there another way that I can like detach from those needs and then still be super enthusiastic and supportive of the team? That's the question
Totally.
I can't answer today, but that's what I'm trying to.
And that's what I woke up thinking about exactly that this morning. Um, that it's not on them, but also that's what I looked at it for. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
But
It's tough.
also so if we can kind of transition into the WSU game a little.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm watching this team play and it's not on them, but I'm also thinking like what are you guys in it for?
yeah. What are you here trying
What
to
are you here
accomplish?
for? Like what
Yeah,
I think the bizarre thing if I'm trying to make sense of Tommy Lloyd's basketball arc so far, every season has begun with this burst of purpose and
yeah,
energy. And we even said it on our one of our first shows, and it wasn't unique to us. We saw the first few games of this team, and we're like, okay, this team's not getting punked. We can
right.
say we might get beat, but we're not getting punked. And now it just seems like we're getting punked left and right again. And that's like super disheartening.
Yeah, it really, really is. I thought the Utah game was a good bounce back game in terms of like toughness. I thought we were really tough and we brought it to them. And then you go to Washington State and look, the refs called it differently. And like they didn't really call a ton of fouls in that first half, and they let a lot of stuff go. They certainly didn't call a lot of stuff like in the restricted in the paint. You get and look, and we missed a lot of bunnies because of it. I think we were shocked by that level of physicality. We're supposed to be the tougher team. We're supposed to be the stronger team. Like if the refs are letting you play. Yeah, it is frustrating to see, and you wonder, Tommy's message getting, is that holding true, right? Like we play with a ton of effort. We play as the tougher team. Is that carrying forward? Because a lot of games it's not there, and that's disheartening is about the best way you can describe it. Because it was really nice to be able to associate with a team. I think we said like, oh, finally, we know that we're
Finally.
going to be that tougher
Yes.
team, and that finally is just kind of yanked out now. We'll
Temporarily.
have yeah, we'll
Temporarily,
have an
right?
opportunity at home again, to beat a couple what should have been really good teams and that are struggling, USC and UCLA. I don't know how much I'm going to take out of those
Yeah.
because it's home. You should play well at home. We're not going to have a chance to really show it again until we go to Oregon right at the end of the month.
Yeah. I'm already like part of me wants to sell my tickets to that game, but we'll come back to that.
Oh,
Well, so
yeah, you're
yeah,
going to that. Yeah,
I'm
because
go
you're local, right?
yeah, I'll say more about that in a couple weeks. So let's just go over these basics, right?
Yeah,
Because this is very much this game played out statistically very similarly to Florida Atlantic. All right.
yeah.
So again, it goes under the like great job by the opponent and we squandered a ton of opportunity. So
There's so many ways to win
look at
this
this.
game.
All right. So look at this. All right. 16 more field goal attempts.
It's almost impossible to lose a game when you have
Okay,
16
especially
more.
so if you have 16 more field goal attempts, the things that come to mind is okay, the other team shot way more
Exception.
free throws or a super high percentage, right? Right.
Right.
Okay. So they shot 46%. It's a nice game for them. They only made four threes. They took care of business at the free throw line. But Mike, we had 11 more three-point attempts. And the believe it or not, with all the talk of the officiating,
Same number.
we had the exact same number of free throws. And
Yeah.
they hit four more. Again, free throws are such a small part of the game in reality that I never like we shot 62%. Normally we'd shoot 70%. So that's like a couple points, but that to me that's not where I look at changing the game, you know. So that's fine, but they did a nice job. But again, we had 11 more rebounds. We had 22 offensive rebounds. How do you lose a game when you have 22 offensive rebounds? You shoot 34%. You
Yeah.
can't, and we all, and so then the other thing is like we only had 10 turnovers.
I know.
We
I
actually
know.
played pretty clean for us, you know, and that's
Yeah.
probably, and so I think the frustrating thing, we even had one more steal than they did, you know. Um, so it, you know, I think beyond all the obvious, you know, stuff that people have already hashed out, like, you know, if you watch the game and you didn't even watch the second half and it only
I
continued
missed this.
in the second half.
Yeah, I missed that second half, which
Just
probably fortunate.
look, here's my opinion and then I'll shut up. So
Yeah.
if we're talking about being tough, right? Toughness is not only like being willing to go into the paint and get hit in the mouth to get a rebound and put your body into somebody and all that, right? Like that's toughness. Yes. Toughness is the ability to go to Pullman in subarctic temperatures and still be excited to play the game, you know, still be really locked in and still be tough enough to be in a tight game and bounce back mentally. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm not seeing aside from Caleb Love, you know, basically we don't deserve him at this point. Like he
Right.
is an
We're letting
absolute
him down,
he's a
which,
monster competitor and I'm inspired by him for sure.
right.
Even as much as I criticize him, that guy's competitive engagement is unreal. You will
Yeah.
take that any day of the week. Um, but you know, we talk about like all the excuses, right? Washington State, they're a team that gets poached. They lost Rodman, they lost
Yeah.
Gouye, you know, he went to the
Yeah.
NBA. They're not, as far as I can see, they're not, their freshman point guard was undergoing you know, cancer treatment. So here, you know, they played at USC on Wednesday. They probably got back
Yeah.
at 2 in the morning, you know,
100%.
probably flying, probably flying commercial, by the way, Arizona fans. So they probably get in at 3 in the morning on Thursday. Oh, you got to play Arizona, maybe the best team in the country in 50 hours, 57 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
They've been at home for 11 straight days. They should be really honed in, rested, practiced, healthy, focused, and that the game is set up perfectly for them. Washington State didn't make mistakes. I mean,
No.
didn't make excuses.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sick of the excuses and the justification. You know, and I'm part of it. I can always kind of make like, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. No,
Yeah. Totally.
the benefit of the doubt's over when you can't grit that game out. And we came back. You watch this when you if you ever watch the replay. Pac-12 is not easy on replays either because they cut
Yeah.
like half the game. But we were down 10 in the second half, and it was basically like, well, here we go, right? And then I will say this was different. I thought our team did fight a lot. Oddly, I think if you watch Umar, aside from the from the appalling missed 2 footers, he
Yeah.
he actually fought really hard on the defensive boards in that second half comeback where like they basically let us back into the game. They got some good shots and they missed them, but we didn't give them second shots. And then we come back and take the lead, and that's where championships teams put their foot on teams' throats. And
Yeah.
basically, in the
What,
last,
4 minutes left and you
Mhm.
got the lead? Like, that's
and
it.
that's
Should be
it.
done.
And then down the stretch, the thing that disheartened me more than anything is that Washington State made all the right plays, made all the right reads, had all the composure, and we blew opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, other than Caleb Love and Keshad making a banked three, which is again a bank shot is missing by 2 feet. So I
Yeah,
don't
we
I don't
shouldn't be
count I
hanging
don't
our
count
hat on
that.
that
No.
one.
Um, and so it was just like I never thought we were going to win. The way their body language was, I was like, yeah, no, I can see Washington State is actually the more focused, more engaged, more mentally tough team right now. And I'm like, we look like we just walked off a plane on a back-to-back, and
Yeah.
we did stay engaged. Like we did fight. I actually thought the first half defense, we did some nice things.
I
They
thought,
they had amazing shot making in the
yeah,
first 13 minutes, the first couple minutes of the second half, and then the last 3 minutes of the game. But our defense was pretty good. And then in the middle of the second half, where they let us get back into it, they had a lot of pretty good looks that they missed. So it was quite odd. But that's where we didn't really put the pedal to the metal, and we missed a ton of easy shots. So my point is, all the excuses about Washington State's defense, yeah, they had a nice little sticky zone, but like if that's throwing you off, like if
yeah,
if that's got you flummoxed that you can't make wide open 4-footers, then forget about talking about playing Kansas in the Elite Eight.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
what are we talking about here?
yeah,
Come on.
yeah, yeah. It's a little distressing, a little disappointing. Very disappointing. I was happy that we in the first half, there was a lot of doom and gloom in the first half. I thought we at least stuck in that first half, which is what
Mhm.
the game part of the game I saw.
Yep.
And in the end, it's not like we got blown out.
Nope.
This isn't one of those Tommy losses where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, we lost by 15. Kept it tight.
Yep.
It's Washington State's not that bad of a team.
Oh, they're a good team. Yeah.
Yeah, they're top, what are they, 65th ranked or something like
Yeah.
that in Ken
They're having
Palm. So,
a, they're having a nice season for sure.
yeah.
And that
But
and that Jones, that Jones guy is
oh
a
yeah,
beast for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
he looked like an NBA player against us,
Yep.
which I don't know if that's good or bad. Um, but you've got obviously Boswell goose egging. That I don't know that I've ever. You have a longer history of watching Arizona basketball than I do. I don't know if you ever remember a starting point guard playing starters minutes and getting zero positive productivity,
Hmm.
literally zero. Um,
Well, no
zero
rebounds, no
points,
assists. Yeah.
0 points, zero rebounds, zero assists, zero steals,
Let me see. Did he
zero
have any
blocks. He had a turnover and
one
he and a
turnover?
couple of missed free throws.
Yeah, he missed two free throws, which was really the shocking part because he's
Him,
bit he's like 12 for 13 on the year, but
yeah,
Mike,
him and JB both missed two free throws, and it's like probably could have won that game. I know you can point to a bunch of different things, but
yeah,
like it's just I know like you're saying, it's just like thing after thing of like there
thing
were ways to
after
win
thing.
this game.
Those little things, they add up, and I think what those little things root in is something deeper than strategy, and I just don't get it. I don't get how you come out like gangbusters year after year after year, and then it's like, we don't care about basketball now. I mean,
Yeah,
I do get the psychological lull of the winter and the school, and
yes,
and it is, but you know, where is the leadership, and how are we sculpting our season? That's part of the art of coaching in the NCAA, is that, and I know this from cross country because it's such an ill-configured schedule that you have to manage your athletes psychological, like you can't go out too hard in a season.
yeah.
You have to be like ready, but you want to save your juice, and
There's some racing
yeah,
like some philosophy and strategy from actual racing that you would carry through as just strategy for the whole season, right?
it's psychological where it's like you got to stay even keel, but you have to look for that last, because in basketball, in every sport, the last event is the most important. Let's say
Right.
the NCAA tournament game, or the
Your
BCS
championship game or
bowl,
whatever.
your
Yeah.
right, your NCAA championship meet. And that's the first one to go when you go out too hard. Like we,
Yeah.
we always used to tell our athletes, like psychologically, if you overtrain in August, the race that gets most affected is not the one in late September, it's the one in late November, because that's what you're pulling from. And
That's a
so,
really good.
right,
That's great advice.
right. And so
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with these guys. It's probably not as dramatic as I'm making it. However, we've seen this pattern in some form. I mean, they've certainly won at a high level, but we've seen
Yeah.
this team is oddly looking psychologically more like last year, which is
Yeah.
very strange because they they just have so many guys with so much to prove.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to speculate because we just don't know. And the great thing about
It's not
sports
fair.
is it will, and it's not finished. I mean, like if we somehow do go all the way and we win it all, then we'll look back at this and this will have played a pivotal growth process rather than looking to
Sure.
So like UConn last year, as everybody
Yeah,
keeps
it's
referencing, right?
everyone's favorite thing to point back to make yourself feel better is UConn went on a terrible skid, and
I'm guilty of it.
yeah, I did it. I'm probably not doing it anymore.
No, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'm
I've
good.
probably tucked away that excuse.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so moving on from here, what are you looking for out of the team? And maybe that's a structural thing, or maybe that's an attitude thing. What are you
Yeah.
thinking?
Well, I mean, of course, I know what I would do, but I don't know these guys. So, I mean, the thing that I love about Tommy is that he says all the right things to the media that I'm like, yeah, that gives me a sense that you are tuned in to the importance of the relationship and like of the psychology and how that
Yeah,
drives performance. So I think he's
yeah,
really like he does seem pretty tuned into that. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but given that, I would say that this is a perfect week to start Bradley. And it's not benching Boswell. It's not punishment. Because I think the reason why I do it this week and not last week is because
yeah,
Boswell got the redemption. He
yeah.
proved to himself that
He
he could come out of it in the Mountain
he
Series.
needed that kind of
He
bounce
needed
back
that.
after like what I think I was saying was like a 6 game roughly
Right.
that I felt was a skid, or just simply not performing at what we expect or what he expects of himself, right?
Right. So I think it's fine. I mean, I don't think you have to skirt around it. I think it's fine to be straight with him. And Tommy seems like a pretty good straight shooter, and he's got a good relationship with the family that he can just say, look, buddy, I believe in you. My job as a coach is to create the conditions under which your development and your teammates' development and ultimately the team's development has the best chance of success. So at this step, I want to try bringing you off the bench again like last year because what I want you to do is practice engaging by watching what's happening in the first segment. And then I want you to look at the places where you can attack because when you're in there, we need you to be in attack mode. That's where you
Yeah.
help us. And so let's give you a chance to just watch, just change gears. JB is going to go out there. The other thing you get from that is a little better balance in the bench offense because
Yeah, I agree.
KJ and Bradley are so um not complementary. They're so redundant in good ways on defense, but not necessarily on offense, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I think
They,
And
they're
Boswell and Lewis are buddies. So
yeah,
bring Boswell off the bench. He'll completely change his mindset or he'll give up. But I don't think he's going to give up. I think what he does is he gets back into like attack mode because he's like, I got to prove myself and pressure comes off because he doesn't have
yeah.
to be the guy, even though the metrics, he's going to play the same amount of minutes. But
Hopefully
that's
more.
how the 18-year-old brain works. So
Yeah,
I mean, look at the jersey you're wearing, right? I mean, look at the way the energy of that team developed when Fafita came in, right?
yeah, yeah,
I know
yeah. I mean,
it's different, but I know football is different, but
no, I mean, making it is different because it's JDL doesn't come back in the game off the bench, right? But
right.
making that change seems appropriate to me at this point. I agree. I didn't love the psychology of benching him on that skid
Mhm.
because then you're basically in a way, obviously you're not trying to, but in a way you're saying, look, I don't believe in you.
Right.
But he got 2 really good games at home, under
Yep.
his belt. He goes and lays a massive egg on the road. Jaden, and to your point of saying, hey, look, this isn't just about
Yeah. Jaden's
hurting.
playing great. Yeah.
Jaden's playing much better. Right now I think he's
Better.
got
Yeah.
his offensive rating is 107 or something in conference, and Kylan's is 95.
Mm.
Anything above 100 is okay, and get to 110, you're in the good. 120, you're in the great. So 107, pretty darn good. 95, really bad,
Well,
realistically.
keep in mind, Jalen's playing a bulk of his minutes next to KJ Lewis, which I wonder what can happen when Bradley's with Love. And
Yeah,
I think that's even a better pair. I think it might be more complimentary for both players in a way at this point.
yeah, because like you were saying, JB and KJ are both complementary kind of players, and when you have too many complementary players out there, who are they complementing? Right.
Exactly.
So JB, and then obviously the shooting is a little mixed up, and then we've seen, I think I've noted on some of our videos in the past where it's like you can see these guys legitimately just like running into each other
Right.
as they're trying to run offensive sets. And they're not as versed in what we're trying to accomplish out there. If you shift that a little bit where you're like, look, hey, you're going to play, Kylan's going to be leading your group, KJ.
Right.
Hey, JB, you're going to join a more mature seasoned group in the starting lineup, and maybe that fixes it. And you move some shooting into that bench group, which I keep raising my hand saying, look, I
Right.
love our bench.
Right.
The defense, the passing, the effort, the points aren't there.
Especially
And so,
if you're not playing Philly and Pauly,
yeah, totally.
because those guys can
Those
are
guys are bucket getters.
they are ready offensively. They're just not
Yeah,
ready
totally.
defensively. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I know Tommy said in the presser that he was like everything's kind of on the table as far as making a switch to the lineup. I don't know how much of that is just like sort of a warning shot, or how much of that is like, hey, we're legitimately going to make a change.
Yeah.
USC is probably, probably have the benefit of it being USC first. They're probably, supposedly they're the better team. UCLA looks like trash. I don't love just the vibe of ever playing UCLA, even if they're playing poorly. So
Oh, they beat Washington pretty handily the other day. Yeah.
yeah,
Washington's good.
I like that we do that against USC, so you don't have sort of the emotion of like, look, we're
Oh,
benching you
right.
against
Right.
our rival kind of thing.
I see.
So
That's a good call. Right.
making that change now. Just trying to think about this.
Plus you got Boogie, right? So you can say, look, like we need to be all over Ellis right from the start. Now that Collier's
Yeah,
out, he went off on us last year. Ellis did, and
yeah,
we need to engage him. And if it's me, I know that Tommy's all over this. Hopefully, this is Tommy's moment where there can be no more. His like kind of aw shucks
yeah.
shtick is at the end of the rope because of the pressure in the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying it's fair, but that's just like the
Um,
way the world works, right? So this is his moment to kind of put his money where his mouth is and say like this. Remember last year when I didn't fight for our culture.
yeah.
I'm
This is
fighting
it.
for our culture. I'm
Yeah,
not punishing Kylan. I would tell this to the whole team. I would say, this is
yeah,
what we're doing. I wouldn't say a ton of words. I would just say, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. I believe in everybody. We need to figure, we need to find our mojo. And everybody's going to get a shot. Give me the five guys who are going to go out and represent the school. And
yeah,
we'll worry about winning second. Right. And I think like what you're looking for, much like Fafita, is you're looking for something to kind of like spark that next part of the season. Where I think like for most teams, they do have a little bit of a lull. Not every team loses
sure.
in that lull, but like the good teams come out of it like UConn last year and they're better for it. And
Yeah,
I don't see a path in Tommy's 3 years yet where the teams evolve. Like the 97 team with, Simon was ineligible the first half of the first semester.
yeah,
And that team struggled. Like that was a really competitive Pac-10, but they lost 9 games. That was like unprecedented before then. They were like the losingest team in the last decade, up until the NCAA tournament.
crazy.
And AJ Bramlett steps in and he's like all of a sudden has a boost of confidence. And then so I think given that the way basketball is, one player sort of having an awakening can, if it's the right player in the right moment, can bring about synergy. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I think it looks like when Boswell is his best self, the team seems energized, but I don't know. I don't want to reduce it to one person. I'm just saying, like, I think that's where you have to start. You have to start by
Yeah,
doing, you have to put you can't, there can't just be words anymore.
no,
You have to do something. And so
yeah.
I think you try something and then you go to the next thing based on how this thing goes on Wednesday. That would be my hope.
Yeah, I see that as being completely rational and completely reasonable. I think back to the Tommy's first season, and we had that horrible game at UCLA, which you and I talked about last week. And then I think just kind of shortly thereafter, really Dalen started to take off, and
Mm,
maybe that was. I'm trying to piece together the timeline there of if it was was Kurt injured and Dalen started getting more minutes or something like that, but. Um, or maybe it just started to click, or he just started taking more personal responsibility for it. But
mm,
Dalen really took off in the second half of the season, and that led to a really strong run for us at the end of the year. We still had that worrying loss against Colorado, which became sort of the harbinger for the loss to Houston.
mm.
As Samson pointed out, like, hey, they showed us how to beat them. But I did think that the team did evolve out of that and grow. And calling back to your reference of good teams do sort of figure it out and grow out of tough points. Hopefully this team is able to do that. And what would that look like to you? To me, I think obviously I need Kylan to get back on track and stay on track, obviously, especially road games. But additionally, I am still asking to see more points production out of the bench.
Mm.
And so maybe this shift does something like that, where one of these more complementary players, which you think about Dalen Terry, a very complementary kind of player, he became a much greater offensive threat as that season went on. Potentially, and that made us all the better for it. Potentially, we see the same coming out of maybe this lineup change.
Who do you look for in that group of like there's four seniors, which is another reason why there's no excuses, right? We have four
Yeah.
guys. Who do you see in the four non-seniors that could have, and Kylan being one of them, but is there anyone else you see who could emerge and really develop in the second half of the year here?
Yeah, I would hope it'd be Jaden Bradley, honestly.
Mm,
The sophomore, the former 5-star, and I partly say that because I've seen him do it.
mm,
I've seen him be assertive, authoritative, kind of, where he is really the guy on the court when he was playing for Alabama last year in some big games. He really did, put some points on the board and take it to some other teams that were tough teams for a freshman to be playing. So I would hope it would be, and partly because I've seen his shooting actually work.
improve. Yeah.
Yeah, KJ, I think the world of, obviously, you and I have talked about him and highlighted him from the kind of the get-go. But off, his scoring, I haven't quite seen. If it was KJ, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know that I don't know that it's gonna be Krivas quite yet. A lot of talk about Balo being disappointing and not finishing his bunnies. It's not like Krivas has been gold at finishing his bunnies either. Um, and then, I still have hope. I still wish that we would see more minutes out of
Yeah.
the two big Europeans in Philly and Pauly. I do think that there is a space for them in this roster. Um, I I kind of don't get, if you're not, and look, I'm not
Yeah.
Tommy, I'm not a college
Yeah.
basketball coach. I don't get paid to do this. I kind of don't get, if you're in the middle of a game and it's not going great and you know that you're the better team. Um, if you look at your stat sheet or you're looking out on the court and you're going, this guy or these couple of guys, they just really aren't bringing it tonight. I don't know why you wouldn't just try to roll the dice and say, look, I think we'll just plug in. Hey, Philly, Pauly, no matter what happens out there, I'm giving you 10 minutes. Like,
Mm.
get out there, be productive, show me what you got. Because it's not like they aren't at the level of talent that a Washington State group or a Stanford group is, right?
But you would hope so. I mean, we're all this talk about Arizona good, but yet nobody can do anything on the court.
They
Like, what are
can't
we
they can't see you can't even see the court when the rest of the team
what are
is.
we doing? Yeah. I
Yeah.
I I fantasize about Tommy turning around to the bench in those moments and just being like, who is
Yeah, who
excited to
wants
go?
it?
Who wants to go play? Like,
Who wants
who's
to play?
excited? Raise your hand if you're excited. If this is the most important thing you'll do today. Great, you go out there. I don't care
Yeah.
win or lose. We need to start with engagement and excitement and enthusiasm. And if you can get enthusiasm, then the other guys who are sitting there going, then they're like, oh man, we're getting showed up by Philly B and Pauly. Like, then if that's what it takes to get those guys in their ego, then maybe like that's the Coach K thing, right? I think Mike, I think you actually froze. Are you there? All right. Well, Mike's frozen, so I get to see if I can do better than when he froze last time. Clearly we are, yeah, like you Wildcat fans, probably trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this team, and it's probably not as dramatic as we fans like to think it is. Um, but yet the opportunities are as fleeting as they do seem sometimes. So I'm really hoping we can go out this weekend and, obviously we want wins, but I think even superseding the wins is how we play. I want to see us be connected. I want to see Jaden Bradley get the start and see what that does to his confidence, to his assertiveness. You there, Mike? Oh, okay, he's coming
Yeah.
back on the phone. I was just saying, I was just kind of summarizing one thing I wanted to say about Bradley. The other thing about starting Bradley is that, like you're saying, maybe that gives him sort of the permission to say, all right, like go go full out. Um, not that
Yeah,
he
that's
not
my
that he
hope,
hasn't
right?
been, not that he hasn't been, but I'm wanting him to step into some of that kind of alpha mentality that he seemed to have in moments at Alabama last year. I think he's I think the tough thing about Tommy's system is um it is so like egalitarian and opportunistic based rather than like role based so much that I can imagine certain personalities um and I think this might happen with Pella a little bit. I think certain personalities maybe either like overthink things, right? Or, clearly somebody with the ego strength of Caleb Love, it doesn't really affect him negatively.
No.
He's gonna attack either way. And you like that. And that's kind of what I like to see. But I think Jaden Bradley's been trying to find his way into like what does the coach want? How does this work? Because this is different, And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see him getting more and more comfortable and he's making that pull up jumper and
I love it.
he's
It's what I was
after
asking for
right.
the whole time, and I saw it in his high school tape, and it was one of my
Mhm.
favorite things about him is that mid range is such a useful tool, especially when you get into tougher games and when you're not playing in transition and you just kind of need a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so excited to see him pull it out.
Yeah. So I gave my little just hoping to see connectedness, hoping to see enthusiasm this weekend, I really do hope to see that lineup change because I think it could spark something in those guys. What else? Is there
I'd be
anything else that you're asking for?
shocked. I'd be shocked if there wasn't a lineup change, and so I would you would be as well.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's proven to be stubbornly loyal at times, and I think that is a
He
fair
has proven to
criticism.
be stubbornly loyal.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes. So yeah, I think the lineup change obviously again, it's difficult to look at things like enthusiasm and toughness and when we're playing at home, um, where that's a lot easier to come by. I need for us to be able to show it when we're playing in a gym where we don't have any supporters, kind of rooting us on, or when you're coming off of a crappy flight to a crappy town. No offense, Pullman. To
Hmm. Yeah.
to sleep in some crappy hotel to
Hmm.
and to lace them up the next morning, the next day. So I might not feel better until we get through the Oregon series at the end of the month. But this week, I have dreams of Philly and Paulie getting in the game. Honestly, I'd like to see those guys. I feel we need them to I don't know, we just need them to produce. I just can't. It's just so hard to stomach that we have guys who are skilled and who can score and who are enthusiastic. I think both those guys play with a ton of enthusiasm. I
Yeah.
don't think if you look at Philly when he's out there, he's just so freaking excited to make an
Yeah.
impact and to show that he can play. Um, that yeah, I really would like for them to get minutes, maybe earlier minutes, but at the same time I know that you do have to play your guys. We don't have a ton of minutes continuity. Every game for us is an opportunity for us to continue to learn and get better. So I get if we're not going to be
Yeah.
able to play guys.
Here's my other little shift that I'm curious about your thoughts on, and then we can wrap it. I know positions mean less and less in modern basketball, and certainly in Tommy's system, it doesn't mean that much. And I love that. I love the fluidity of it. I wonder about the psychology for Philly. I almost want him to go out there in the point guard role because
Yeah, yeah, it's funny.
that's where he's the most natural is like initiating. He's more of like a
Yeah,
he's
he's
almost
so
like a
natural at initiating.
Magic Johnson kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
I want him. You, you could change nothing about the sets, and you could just tell him in his mind, there's a 19-year-old, just be like, Philly, you're going in and you're playing point. Like you're the point guard. I
yeah,
want you know what I mean? And just like
yeah.
let him cook a little bit because
I'm
that's where his
serious.
skills are. That's where his skills are.
Right. Yeah, I think when he came in, I looked at him on his tape, and I was like, this is like one of the more natural. This is one of the more skilled players. This is like one of the more deeper
Hmm.
bags, scoring
Hmm.
wise, that I had seen on like a guy coming in. And he, like I think back to like a Nico Mannion, or an
Hmm.
Alonzo Trier, like guys who just like, you like, wow, you have a collection of moves to get buckets. One on one, you were gonna get it. I think obviously since he got here, he's been focused on
Hmm.
being part of the system, and so that maybe speaks to
Hmm.
maybe like that kind of hyper egalitarian
Hmm.
psychology that the team has via Tommy. If that's his skill right now, if he's not getting buckets like he used to, like, yeah, man, lean into that. Like, let's create some stuff, because he does have a very unique vision. He's got great size, obviously, and so his
Hmm.
ability to make entry passes, and the patience that he shows in getting
Hmm.
those in there and finding windows is really impressive. So,
His post entry is better than, you know, I mean, better than some of these other
everybody,
guys. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
like
I mean,
Kylan and Pella and Caleb. I mean, it's not. I think it's one kind of subtlety that we're where we're really missing guys like Kerr for sure.
yes,
Because Kerr was
100%.
really Kerr had all the stuff wrong with him, but he was really good at that, and he was really
A
great at
maestro
yeah, he was great at
post
reads
entry.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And then and giving waiting that extra beat for a
Hmm.
good reason. Not,
Hmm.
I see Pella waiting an extra beat, and it's like that was the
Yes.
window that you needed to
Yes.
pass that ball in
And then
there.
no,
And
no, 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 no.
yeah, then
Oh.
it's too late. Obviously, that's getting, yeah. And
Oh.
best case scenario, it's deflected, and we got to start
Right.
all over.
Right.
Um, yeah. So unique. I think he's unique talent. I think the world of him. Maybe that's dumb, but
No, I get it.
I would.
I worry about him trying to guard threes and fours, but I think what you look at is potentially the correlative impact or the ancillary impact of throwing somebody who really wants to be out there in the
Yeah,
game
100%.
and
Yeah.
being like, look, Kylan, this dude's out there
If
cooking, you know?
Yeah.
I don't
If
know
you
what
want
he,
to play today, like,
yeah,
match
right.
that energy.
Match that
And if
energy.
you don't, like, if you're not going to match that energy, then like, for all the things that you do well, largely like for today, you're not doing any of them.
Right.
So it really doesn't matter that we put Philly in. Oh no, you can't put Philly in for Kylan. Well, I mean, if at Washington State, you sure could have.
You sure could have,
Couldn't
and
have done
you
any
probably,
worse.
yeah. I mean, maybe he would have thrown away four balls, but I think what it does in the 19, 20-year-old psyche is you see Philly be out there, and you're not in the
Yeah.
game, and you're something's waking
Yeah. You're
up.
like,
You're
son of a
something's
bee.
waking up.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you're gonna kick a door down to get
Right.
back. You're like, no, I'm the guy. Not what is he doing out there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think that would be useful. The lineup change is what I'm looking for, and it's the same guy. I'm looking for JB to come in. I'm looking for him to, like you said, to be a little less egalitarian. And I would like, and I've said it previously, I'd want to see Pella taking more shots. There's the same thing with Kylan. Ramey and her had green lights from three, and they and even Boswell back last season, it was like, look, if you get a glimpse of an open three, I need you taking that shot.
Mm,
And we were one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country last year. I
mm.
don't see that same level um of of desperate thirst for like, oh, like, I see an open 3-point shot, I taste blood like in the
Right,
water, like
right.
I did,
Hmm.
bomb, bomb, bomb. So I would love to see, you know Pella loves to be a facilitator and be complimentary. That's great. Congratulations. I need you to be a sharpshooter, Kylan. The same thing. And I would ask the same as of like a JB. You don't always have to be setting up other guys. Like, do you feel free to go get a bucket?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's
Pella's got to believe that he's the baddest guy on the court, or else he shrinks and struggles like we've seen. And hey, dating back to Wisconsin, he's 8 for his last 8 from three at McHale.
oh wow,
Yeah. So
wow,
I mean, if we can just bottle up some of the confidence and energy that we seem to play with at McHale,
yeah.
but that speaks to, like that's got to be deep within the sense of purpose of each player and the team. And so that's where I'm like, all right, well, I don't really see it yet.
We're not we're not winning a banner. You're not cutting
Mm-mm.
down the big nets at McHale. You got to be able to go do that on the road and on neutral sites against really tough teams. So, yeah, season continues to evolve. It's not over in any way. We got a lot of games ahead of us, so I am excited to see how the team continues to grow. Again, for all of the guys that we recognize and for all the guys that we brought in that are upperclassmen, this is still a fairly young team. It is still certainly a new
Mm,
group with
mm,
not a great, it's 2/3 of the minutes are to brand new players.
mm.
So there's still a lot of growth that we can expect out of the team, and I expect the lineup change to spur some of that. So looking forward to that tomorrow.
Really, really looking forward to that. Thanks for your time and
Yeah, man.
for your jersey. May the transfer portal be quiet on the Tucson front. And we will see. Hey, Wildcat fans, bear down this week. We got the LA schools, and I mean, bottom line, we got to win, but we got to start creating some real traction here this week. So let's hope we're talking next week after a sweep, and we can focus on my trip down to Eugene, which I am very much dreading at this point. Because the last two times,
On a knife edge right now.
well,
I'm
the
sure.
two games I've been to were
Oh God, they're
the
stompings, right?
2017 Lowry marketing team where we lost by like 1,000, and then
Yeah, it's
last
terrible.
last year when we just they just pulled away. I think they won by 19. So I thought this year we'd have a chance, but now they've got Dante back anyway. We'll talk about that next week. Bear down, Wildcat fans. Anything
Bear
last?
down.
Okay, bear down.